Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. I am joined by Chosen. Chosen, what's up, man? Welcome back to the channel, man.
Hey, what's up? It's always fun. Been a while since we've gotten together and done a collab, so it's going to be a good time.
It has been a minute or two, and we had a bunch of video ideas kind of brewing for this collab, and I thought like the most fun, because, you know, I'm sure we've both gone over the champions in this game many times on our individual channels. If you guys don't know, obviously check out Showfly. YouTube channel will be linked in the description below. But what I want to do today is kind of go touch on like our most underrated or unsung hero champion in every single faction, and I really want to hear like your thoughts too, because I'm positive in this video we'll touch on some champions that the other one you know, probably haven't given a lot of thought to. Before we get into it here, like what are your thoughts on the game right now overall? Are you excited about this new faction? Like what are your overall thoughts on Shadowkin?
Yeah, I think so far so good. They have some interesting things going on in the kit, trying some new mechanics. So yeah, I think they're in a pretty decent direction right now. I would give it like a 7 out of 10. Nothing amazing, but it's not like bad as of now. So yeah, aesthetically they're awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so far so good.
I guess there's not going to be an underrated champion in Shadowkin because we've probably not played many of them, if any. So do you have a favorite out of like just on paper?
On paper, probably Genzen. It'd be kind of fun to do the AoE defense break, and then you can get some cool situations like the spider, where if he gets enough critical hits, he can basically just get a free extra turn and have a relentless set proc. So, and AoE defense break on a 3-turn cooldown is always a good thing. So, yeah, I think Genzen would be a fun one to kind of play around with and see if you can snowball some turns.
Yeah, man, I hate to copy you, but I agree. He's my favorite out of everybody as well. Also, a shout to the big frog man, the Tagari the frog. He seems like he could be cool, specifically for clan boss, but I'm sure in other areas as well. He has that passive where when attacked, has a 50% chance of placing a poison debuff on the attacker for 2 turns, occurs once per hit. Pretty cool.
Yeah, they've I noticed that too, and he's got AoE provoke and lots of other stuff as well.
Protect, shield, yeah, he's got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot going on, so a pretty cool epic champion. All right, so moving into the, I guess the next thing, I keep like changing the subject, but I guess the next big thing in the game is going to be clan tournaments. What about that? Like it seems like people are pretty sour on what those might look like inside the game.
I think people's main complaint was there's no like new mechanic. It's just like you're grinding the dungeons and doing the stuff you already do. It's just gonna keep score. So I think it would have been fun if they tried to implement something new, at least like one minor new mechanic. But I think once we dive into it, as long as the matchmaking is good and you don't have clans and wildly different spending tiers going up against each other, I think all in all, it should be a good addition to the game once it kind of settles in.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking Clan Wars, dude, super exciting, right? Can't wait to see what it's like. A new PvP where we're all together, and it's like, oh, it's just a tournament system. But as you said, to be optimistic about it, it's like, okay, better than nothing, which we have right now. So we'll see what they come up with. Anyway, dude, Banner Lords, let's start at the top here. Who is your favorite or most underrated champion? Champion that you don't think gets enough love, I guess.
Gosh, I would probably, like I would say Stag Knight, but I think people are already warming up to how good and versatile he actually is for progressing accounts. But I always tell people, like, when I do account takeovers for mid-level accounts, one of the first champions I'm looking for to see if they have is Stag Knight, because like he's got the AoE defense break and it decreases attack, which basically increases the toughness of your entire team. And then in situations like the Fire Knight and the Spider, he can do the big version of decreased speed. So he's one of the best champions to have for progressing accounts. But I think people are already kind of warming up to him. In terms of a new one, I think Archmage Helmut doesn't really get enough love for how good he is as an epic.
Dude, he's like legendary, man. He's legendary status.
Yeah.
And I know that's an overused thing, right? About like, oh, he's like a legendary. But he really does feel legendary with the increased speed, crit rate, crit damage, and the AoE 75% stun. That's pretty OP. Yeah, I'm super excited about him. He's my favorite. I mean, certainly out of him and Thea, my favorite Doom Tower champion. I'm assuming the same for you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Not much of a competition there.
He's a home run, and a lot of people forget that while you're progressing an account, it's really tough to get to 100% crit rate. So bringing that increased crit rate buff, it seems like it's bad in the end game, but for players that are more towards the early to mid game, that's actually a really good buff.
Yeah, no doubt. Good point out on that, and also the speed, 108 speed, dude. He's a fast fella as well. So really love this champion as well. I'm gonna go with for me. I'm gonna cheat and go 2 as well, because I've always been a fan of Richtof the Bolt, even before like Doom Tower because of the decreased enemy max HP, but like a pretty decently hard hitting for an A1 AOE, and then all those poisons after his buff on a 3-turn cooldown on Bloodletting. I just think he's a really cool champion. I don't use him a ton, and I have him, but he's cool. He puts out a lot of poisons. And then my other cheat is going to be Dagger. I think that Dagger, it's nice to have a neutral affinity decreased defense champion, even though it is a 75% chance, but you can sniper up to 80, I guess, right? You like either of those 2 champs?
Yeah, no, Dagger was a great addition to the game for a rare to have like you said, a neutral affinity defense break on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. So yeah, basically a War Maiden that is rare, and I think also, that is void, not force, and also hits harder than War Maiden. So yeah, pretty darn good addition to the game for a rare.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move it along here and go to, and guys, as you're watching, go ahead and feel free to give us your list. Who cares, right? Guys, start the comment right now and give us your list of, just give us your most underrated champion in each category. Let's go to High Elves, Chosen. Who do you have here?
Oh, in terms of Undersoul, because obviously Apothecary, but I think everybody's pretty much on board with how amazing Apothecary is for a rare. So, probably Vergis. Like he does a lot of cool things in terms of utility for Doom Tower, helping you. Like I've got a build where he solos the Scarab on the highest level of hard, so he can be a handy one to have for a bunch of different areas of the game, just with how sturdy he is. And then like the Scarab is one of the biggest pains in the game, so that alone makes him a worthwhile champion to invest in if he's going to help you versus the Scarab.
Dude, Chosen, I must have missed that video. The highest level, what is that, floor 90, I think, of hard, he can solo him?
Yep.
What's the build like? We'll link the video, but give us a little spoiler.
Yeah, I actually haven't done a dedicated video on it yet.
Oh, okay.
But I've like showed people on stream and stuff how to do it. But yeah, it's basically high resistance, and you get him some immortal gear and good enough stats, and you can bring a speed aura champion, and then they can just die. Like you can bring a rare that has a speed aura, because even when they die, Vergis is going to keep the speed aura, and then that can help you hit that speed threshold that you want. But yeah, high speed, high resistance, and then he can shield himself, and yeah, it might take 10 or 15 minutes, but he'll literally solo the Scarab on hard.
Okay, wow, good to know. Good to know. I know you could do it on normal, but I wasn't aware that he could solo hard, so a good call out there. I guess I'm going to give it to, I feel like especially High Elves, more so than maybe any other faction, I feel like a lot of these champions get a ton of love, right? Like, I think that, I think one of my faves is Reliquary Tender, but I think that people kind of know that she's a beast, so I'll go with a little bit more of an unsung hero and go with Battle Sage. Just because of Arena, I think that, her A2 with increased attack and then a full cleanse with 100 base speed, I think that she's a really solid Arena champion. And then she has a revive on death on a target ally for 3 turns. Ally will revive instantly if killed. I think that she, with the AoE on the A1 too, I think that like her and Skytouch Shaman are 2 of my favorite champions just because they have a lot of kind of, similar skill sets. And I like Arena cleansers. So I guess Battle Sage will be my champ.
And a 19% speed aura for all battles. So yeah, she's got a pretty universally used kit. And yeah, like you said, for Reliquary Tender, on my free-to-play competition, the person that won it, Reliquary Tender, was a big part of the reason why, with the revives and the cleansing and all that type of stuff. So yeah, good picks there. Yeah,
if you had to have like one rare to start out your account in the entire game, like obviously aside from the starters, I'm assuming you might go Apothecary. I would go Tender or Cold Heart.
Yeah, I would go Apothecary. I think that's the obvious answer. But if not Apothecary, I would probably go Bellower.
Interesting. Okay, so our list is very, obviously they're all amazing champions, right? But it's very, very, because I think I would go Tender first, and then I would go Cold Heart second, just because they're voids too. Because I could probably pull the I actually pulled Apothecary in a off of a mystery on my free to play account.
Oh jeez,
they're all amazing. So let's move it on to the Sacred Order here, man. There's a lot of champions of Sacred Order.
yeah, it's one of the more fleshed out factions for sure.
Yeah, who do you have here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a new one. Again, it's hard to keep up with some of the recent changes of the game. A lot of champions coming out, but I'm gonna go Deacon. This guy is mental for an epic. He's one of the best epics in the game. Probably a top 5 epic in terms of what you would want on a new account with the speed aura and all battles of 19%. Incredible. And then he's got a turn meter boosting ability that grants an extra turn, so it's basically free. And then after that, he'll do an AoE attack with a 100% chance to break defense if you got him booked on a 3-turn cooldown. So yeah, Deacon is just mental. He's one of the best epics in the game.
Totally agree with you on that one. It's funny, my viewers will know, but you will not. But before he even said his name, I had him up on the screen because I'm like, yep, I know where he's going on this one. Send me a champion because he's so good. I mean, the granting an extra turn on time and compression too. It's just like, okay, that just makes him beast mode because as you said, you can basically keep decreased defense up pretty much constantly because of that. So really cool champion. I guess I will go with, and you might say that he's not underrated, but I pulled Cupidus. We'll go old school here. I pulled Cupidus like a while ago, right? And I vaulted him. And I was like, old champion, whatever. And you've been around since the day one, basically. So I didn't know how beast mode this dude is, man. Like he's on a lot of my main like speed farming teams now. He does a ton of damage, and I just wasn't ready for it. I just didn't know. Any familiarity with Cupidus?
Yeah, for sure. He and a lot of people don't know that his flame out ability hits insanely hard. And then the AoE A1, so you can do some fun things like stun set builds with him constantly locking down faction wars waves. He's got good base stats, over 1500 attack and 107 base speed. So yeah, Cupidus is I think it's a good pick because he's kind of undersold, and a lot of times people are like, oh, when they summon him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he can be a pretty solid legendary for sure.
I think I was like that. I was just like, oh, Cupidus, okay, cool. But then, everything you said is dead on. It's just like, wow, I took a while to build him, and then when I did, like you said, this flame out does, I don't know, consistently over 300,000 damage, in the build that I have him on at least. And Flames of Passion are 3 hard-hitting attacks, great for bosses as well. And then the AoE and the A1 does a lot of damage. So yeah, man, big fan of this dude. And it took me a while to realize that. Next up, Barbarians. Who is your Barb underrated?
Ooh, probably I'm gonna have to go with Contra. I don't think people realize how good Contra is. She was a fusion and kind of undersold for a while. But after the release of the Doom Tower, she just brings so much. If you get her A2 booked, just look at all that does on a 3-turn cooldown. Like blocking buffs is super crucial. She increases the toughness of your team with decreased attack. Decreased speed is extremely crucial in the Doom Tower and basically every area of the game. Heal reduction for those long fights. She scales with defense. She's very sturdy. She's got 60 in terms of base resistance and accuracy, which is very high. Usually champions have like 30 or 40. So yeah, she's very solid. I think people are underselling her a little bit because she was a fusion.
I agree with you, man. Like, you put Contra on your team, and it's just shocking how these debuffs stack up, right? It's just like, holy good God, there's like 15 debuffs. And I remember it's just, what is it? If they're under, if they're under 5 or more debuffs, she lands a provoke off her passive. And I remember pulling her immediately or fusing her, initially and thinking that like, that's going to be pretty rare that there's 5 debuffs. And it's pretty consistent that there are because she's landing these on every hit times 3 on Chaos Tempest. So I agree with you, man. Good choice. For my choice, let's see. I mean, I can't put Sylva Drake. It's too obvious.
Oh my God. Thank you.
It's too obvious.
Can I guess who you're gonna pick?
Sure.
I think you're gonna pick like Sky Touch Shaman or something.
No, because I thought that. What? Well, she would be if I can pick. You know what the thing is, dude? Is like I'm having trouble thinking what's underrated and what's not, right? Because I figured that people know that Sky Touch Shaman is an absolute beast. She would be my pick, but I'm gonna go a little bit more obscure, maybe a little bit newer, and I'm gonna go Armina.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Armina. I mean, she's really fun to put with Seal of the Drakes or put with Archmage Helmet because she has that passive where fills this champion's turn meter by 10% each time an enemy receives a stun debuff. So if you load her with like 2 other stunners or more, like a miscreated monster, doesn't matter, you're looking at tons of turn meter fill. And then she has turn meter decrease on the A3 and an AoE decrease defense at 100% clip when booked on a 3-turn cooldown with turn meter steal on the decreased defense that she does land. So I think she brings a ton to the table. She also has a stun on the A1, 45%, which is not bad for an A1 as well. Her base stats aren't crazy, but I think that Armina is a pretty cool champion, and she actually puts out a decent amount of damage as well.
Yeah,
Have you built her?
I haven't. I actually just summoned her recently,
Okay.
but I've been meaning to dive into that. But yeah, talking about like that 683 defense is hilariously low. I wonder why they did that. But yeah, no, she's got a cool kit for sure.
I guess, Chosen, you got to have the whole team stunned. All the enemies stunned, they can never attack her, right? You're good. So,
yep.
But she's a fun champion. All right, moving right along here to Ogryn Tribe. Okay. Who you got here, man? Some choices.
Shamrock, because
okay. I mean, it's St. Patrick's Day at the time of this recording, so
that's right. And I'm not saying he's S tier, but he's better than people think. When you couple the fact that he's going to increase the defense of your entire team and a 30% increased speed buff, and then on top of that, he's going to 30% decrease speed the enemies, so a massive speed swing there. And then on the A1, he's removing buffs, which is always good. And 111 base speed is insane, and then almost 1200 base defense, 21k HP. The base stats are great. So and then Ogryn Tribe, is one of the tougher faction wars to complete. So Shamrock can be a game changer in faction wars as well. So not saying he's god tier, but he's definitely better than people give him credit for, I think.
You know what, dude? I agree with you 100%, and you hit the nail on the head. Decreased speed, solid, and increased defense with everything else that he brings to the table, which is quite a bit. I'm not going to read it all. I agree 100%. Really cool champion. Who do I want to go with here? And again, I leaned on him heavily too for Faction Wars, so it's a great point there. I would have went Ignatius back before Doom Tower, but I think the word is out on how good he is. I think people know how good Ugo is. So I guess I will give a shout out, and I think Grush wouldn't qualify either. Are you a big fan of Grush?
Yeah, I think he's solid for an epic, and can definitely. He was a big player for me on finishing Faction Wars for Ogryn as well. So yeah, I like Grush.
Yeah, we haven't chosen many rares either, but I'm not a huge fan. Look at me, I should have prepared a little bit more from my video. We will go with a new dude. I think it's a dude. Yeah, it's got to be Claude Beast Feeder. New champion. I have not pulled him yet, but 21k HP, 110 on the speed, and has the A3 with the increased speed and an increased accuracy on a 3-turn cooldown. I want to say there's only, I think, 3 champions that have a 3-turn increased accuracy in the game, so makes him unique right out the gate there. Also has a shield on a 3-turn cooldown, and has a heal the ally lowest HP by 10% of their max HP at the start of every this champion's turn, which is nice to kind of have to just to kind of add a little bit more to his kit. And again, his damage is based on HP. So I think that this champion, if I do get him, I definitely want to build him out. Pretty cool for the arena. I think his base speed being 110 makes him a viable like starting play champion with the increased speed and increased accuracy, especially if you don't have the gear to build your Ceres or whoever your debuffer is to be very high in accuracy. And I think coming around on his second turn with a shield is not a bad move. What do you think of this dude?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, and you're right. Increased accuracy is a role that they really neglected in the game for a long time, and they've just kind of now started to address that. So we're getting champions that do the increased speed as of recently, but yeah, Claude is one of the rare ones that do it and have actually launched with it. And then the increased speed on top of that is a really good progression champion, because a lot of times people that don't have a great haul developed yet are struggling to hit those accuracy thresholds that you need once you start progressing in dungeons and stuff. So yeah, I think that's a great ability to have when booked on a 3-turn cooldown.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move it on to Lizardmen.
Pull up Lizardmen here. Okay, so
Lizardmen is rough. Either they're really good or they're like,
Yeah, the secret room that people always struggle with the most is the epic Lizardmen one, because you have to. So yeah, I don't know.
Have you been able to clear that one?
Yeah, I built like the Broadmow and the Jareg and Basilisk.
I built Basilisk. I was gonna say I built Basilisk, man.
Yeah, because he's got I threw him in a stun set. He's got that AoE A1.
Yeah.
So you just do the lockdown. I guess if I had to pick one, I would go Haruspex. Pretty solid for a rare because he's basically like a budget apothecary. He's going to be filling the turn meter and then placing the increased speed. It's not obviously the big version like apothecary, but for early game progress to have that on a 3-turn cooldown and then the ability to revive is obviously very important when you're trying to progress because you don't have a ton of stats yet. So being able to pick up your damage dealer like your KO or something is going to be a big deal. So Haruspex, not like a top 5 rare, but
No.
the pickings and lizardmen are a little bit hard for this category, so I would probably lean towards Haruspex.
I agree with you in terms of the pickings being hard. Not a bad choice there as well. I guess I'm going to go with, I think that everybody's favorite. What do you think of Ox the Remembered, or Aox the Remembered, however you say his name?
Yeah, he's
not my choice, but what do you think of him? I don't have him, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, I haven't tested him extensively. I'd already finished Lizardman Faction Wars when he came out.
Got you.
But yeah, anytime you could increase duration of debuffs, that's pretty cool. And he could do some fun things on certain like mid-game clan boss teams and play some poisons and increase those crucial debuffs. So yeah, I think he's solid, not amazing.
Got you. Yeah, you know what? I'm tempted to go Vergumkar, even though he gets a ton of hate. I'm going to go with him. He gets a ton of hate. He was such an underwhelming fusion or fragment, whatever he was. But at the end of the day, I think that, if I had this dude for progression, if I had him on my free-to-play account, it would be a game changer for me. I think that the point is that most people who did end up picking him up were already end-to-end game, and he is a bit underwhelming, but he's good for Doom Tower. He's good in some kind of niche areas. He's good against provoke teams in the arena, I guess, because he removes all provoke debuffs. He also has the increased defense buff for 2 turns on allies who have debuff removed. Also has a shield on all allies based on his max HP, all on a 3-turn cooldown. That's not bad. And then he has an AoE attack with a remove 1 random buff from each enemy. See, he has so much that he's kind of doing here, but it's all contingent on something, right? And that's why I feel like it's hard to read through all this junk and find out actually what he does. But I feel like I'm trying to talk myself into him here, Chosen. How do you feel about this dude?
Yeah, sure. I'll help you out.
Yeah, I've actually seen, I've gone up against some people recently that are using him in tag team arena defenses. So yeah, I think people are kind of slowly warming up to the fact that he could have some utility. But yeah, I think it's a solid pick because obviously you can't go with the normal choices like the Dracos and the Rosins.
Yeah.
So you're forced to kind of think outside the box.
I thought about Roxim. He's a pretty cool champion. I just I don't use him at all, I don't know.
Yeah, the Void or the Veil debuffer.
Yeah.
Or I mean, damage dealer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought about Chris. I don't think people understand how good this dude is. He's a kind of new champion. Joking, guys.
Sometimes I don't know when you're kidding.
All right, Skinwalkers. Let's move
Skinwalkers.
Right along
one of the harder factions for me to clear.
Yeah.
So I would go. I would again similar to Shamrock. I would go War Chief. Again, he's not S tier, but he can help you a lot in terms of getting through faction wars, especially when you manual him. He's amazing because you can basically lock down a target permanently. So you can, those Valkyries and stuff in faction wars, you can just lock them down and they can never use their ability. And then his A1's going to do it as well. So you're constantly, if you're manualing, he can lock stuff down, and then he's one of the most crucial champions in the game for that new Magma Dragon in the Doom Tower. Yeah, so again, just like Shamrock, not saying he's God tier, but better than people think.
Yeah, I agree. With Magma Dragon entered the game, it finally gave me a reason to dust off my War Chief, and now I use him as well. So good call out there. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick, let's see. I think I'm going to pick, I think I'm going to go with, I was kind of torn between going my first rare. I'm going to go with Greybeard. This is an early game / progression champion, guys, but I do want to include some rares. I've been going pretty legendary and epic heavies here. So I think he's solid, right? He's got a very synergistic kit, if that's a word. So he has a provoke on his A1, but that's a 75% provoke for a rare on an A1. And then on his A2, he has his damage is based off defense, so he's easy to build to be like super robust, especially in the early and the mid game where people are usually using him. And then again, for a rare, he has an AoE 40% freeze when booked. That's really solid on a 3-turn cooldown at that. And then on his A3 has a shield on this champion, and then has a counterattack on himself for 2 turns, which leads into him placing even more provokes. So I think that like for a rare champion, he's doing quite a bit here, and he's farmable too in campaigns. So Greybeard.
Yeah, if you watch any of my videos from like 2 years ago when I was a brand new player, he was one of the champions in like my first beginner squad. I had a Greybeard going on, so.
Dude, he's actually like, and I forgot his aura. Defense and damage by 30%, man. Like that's so solid to get. Again, just farmable in campaign. Definitely not a lot of champions as good as Greybeard, I feel like, for the early / mid game progression.
Yeah.
So let's go to Orcs.
All right, Orcs.
Good champs here.
Yeah, I would probably go with Duck. I don't think people are aware. Like I said earlier, so many new champions have come out, like 60 of them in the last 2 months. So I think people are losing sight maybe of how good some of these new champions are. But also in my free-to-play competition for the person that won, Duck was a pretty crucial part of their roster because he's got the decreased accuracy, which is helping the resistance of your entire team. And then the 3-turn cooldown A2 of decreasing the attack and defense. So he's basically a counter affinity Stag Knight. So you've got Stag Knight filling that role, Spirit. He slides in as magic. So yeah, Duck is an amazing champion that I think a lot of the community hasn't caught on to yet.
Love Duck, man. Love him. He's the second champion that I fully maxed out on my free-to-play account, and what a great champion to have, you know? He's a real beast, so totally agree with you on that one. I personally rank him like in a vacuum as a top 5 epic champion. I think he's really, really good. So I'm going to go with... I'm tempted to go. I'm going to go really, really underrated, as in like a champion that is borderline, you know, buildable if I pulled him. But I'm going to go with Robar because his multipliers are insane. He deals a ton of damage. Really one of the best damage dealers in the game. But his speed is and defense. I'm going with this theme here, Chosen, with Armina. His speed and defense are like an uncommon champion. So I have no idea what's going on there. But if you're looking for a damage dealer, look no further. On his he has an AoE decreased defense, hard-hitting Wild Swing on his A2, and then a very hard-hitting Merciless Assault, a 4-turn cooldown, and damage increases if the target is under sleep, stun, and freeze. So if you put him with another stunner, you know, on your team, he can just be an absolute nuke machine. I don't own him myself, but definitely a champion I've seen in other videos and content, just absolutely tearing up the dungeons and arena or whatever.
Yeah, he can absolutely crank out damage. I did a video where I talked about like the top 20 damage potential damage dealers, and Robar was on there. And then to your point about him having 87 base speed, with a lot of these legacy champions, what Plarium was doing was if they had some sort of extra turn mechanic, which Robar does on his A1, it says grants an extra turn. They would usually punish those type of champions with a lower base speed to try to counter the fact that they're getting extra turns. So that's why his base speed is, like you said, an uncommon.
Interesting. Okay, that's really good context there, though. That's good. It kind of explains that. So there we go, Robar. All right. Next up is going to be moving right along to Demon Spawn. Oof.
Okay, yeah,
right.
they've got a lot of good ones. And I would go with, I mean, because people know how much utility a lure can have and stuff. I would probably say Tynix doesn't. Like, again, not saying she's a top 10 epic, but she definitely can be good and can also be very impactful for faction wars. So anytime you've got decreased speed and the 30% HP for faction wars is a huge aura. And then she also has the A1 that is going to, champions HP on each target under decreased speed. So you're getting lots of stuff from Tynix. I think she's like probably one of the better epics in the faction outside of the normal choices to build in terms of progressing your demon spawn.
It's funny, I've been pronouncing, when you realize you've been pronouncing a champion's name wrong for like a year or whatever, however she's been in the game, I'm like, because I've been calling her Tynex so long, I'm like, who's Tynex? Who the heck is this?
Put some respect on my name. You understand me?
Anyway, I actually agree with you, and I think it was one of your videos that I saw you utilizing her in Faction Wars, and I was like, wow, that's how I can get some heals off, because I was really struggling in Demon Spawn. I didn't have Duchess at the time. I didn't have any good support. So I just saw that you actually used her heavily in Faction Wars, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to copy Chosen. So good call.
Yeah, no, I could be wrong on pronouncing her. You might be right. I mean, anybody...
I think actually reading it, I think you're right?
Tynex, yeah.
Tynex, I don't know. I have no idea. Dude, half these champions, I just, you fake it till you make it, But good call there. I think that it's funny, all of these new champions are pretty sick. I pulled Sissia, and she is so good in terms of a nuker. But I'm actually going to give it to Tarshan, another new champion. His damage is based on defense. He has a pretty high defense, a pretty high speed, so good base stats. He has a provoke on his A1. He has an AoE weaken on the A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. And then he has an increased defense with a turn meter fill of 20% on the A3. Now, unfortunately, that is on a 4-turn cooldown instead of a 3. That'd be amazing if it was on a 3. But with the turn meter fill on top of the increased defense, I don't know if there's any other champion in the game who has an AoE weaken with an AoE increased defense with the turn meter, certainly. So I think he's a unique champion, a pretty fun champion, especially being Spirit Affinity and damage based off defense. I think he's a great progression champion.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good pick. I agree with what you said.
Cool. Let's go to Undead Horde.
Undead. Okay. Yeah, the Undead probably have like just the most raw good champions, from Battle to Rhodos and Siphi and Mashalet and Netheril. I mean, it's just down the list. Gorgorab, there's like 20 good champions in Undead.
There really is. Yeah.
Gosh, it's tough to go with somebody.
Aren't you a big fan of Bloodgorged?
Yeah, I was gonna go there because ever since the Rhodos nerf and block revive is so important to have, especially in like tag team arena. Everybody's putting like double revive teams on their defenses, and he's somebody that can hit extremely hard and ignore defense, and then they can't be revived. So yeah, I think he deserves a second look from people and some options in terms of countering some of those double revive teams that you're going up against, because it's important to bring someone like Foley or Bloodgorged to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so that was your choice?
Yeah. Awesome. I was actually, before you even said that, I was going to go there, yeah.
I knew you used him in the arena. I saw a couple of your videos using him, so I was like, I think he might go there. So cool. Okay, I guessed it. I'm going to go with, for me, it's a toss-up. I think one of my second favorite champion in the game, or is certainly, I think my top 3 are like Reliquary Tender, and Syl the Drakes, and Little Miss Annie. I hate to go with a Void Legendary, but I really, really like Little Miss Annie. She's not like an S-tier champion in the game. However, I'm not sure if you've ever seen this Playdate ability or if you have her, but it can one-shot anybody in the game. Like, we're talking Duchess and shield and increased defense, Siphi and shield and increased defense. It does not matter. And, they come up with so many of these champions in the game, Chosen, where they're just hard-hitting, like, single-target nukers, kind of. And you're just like, okay, dude, like, cool Plarium, but we've seen that a million times. And I think that Little Miss Annie is a huge exception to that rule, because she has this really cool passive. When revived, she attacks the person that killed her. And also fills her turn meter and all this other stuff. So she comes back into Pretty Nails, which is a very hard-hitting 3-time hitter on her A1, and then she has a self-veil and an increased attack on the A2. She's doing a lot, and I think she's just such a cool champion, although, again, not one of the best champions in the game, but definitely unique in terms of single-target damage dealers.
Yeah, I did a video on her and had some fun testing her, and yeah, that Playdate ability hits insanity hard. So yeah, you could basically just pick an enemy and wipe them off the map.
Indeed. My second little call out was going to be Dark Elhain. I think that she's really, really fun as well. But let's move on to Dark Elves.
Cool, Dark Elves. Okay, let's pull that up. Okay, so undersold. Probably Gosh, Ghostborn maybe.
I was gonna go Ghostborn. Good choice.
Because like it's so good to have the guaranteed can't be resisted defense break. When you start going up against these arena squads with high resistance, you can bring him in there and you don't have to worry about it. You just boom, break the defense. I actually use him in my spider strategy because then I don't have the 3% fail rate where if you use somebody like a Draco, even if you have 1,000 accuracy, you're going to fail 3% of your runs. So you throw in Ghostborn, then you don't worry about it. You can build a team where 100% you know what you're getting every single time. So yeah, I think Ghostborn definitely fills a cool role in the game.
I agree. Very cool to have a champion. And he hits decently hard too, like on both of his AoEs. Good base stats. All right, so I'm going to go with... I think my choice is going to be... I was going to go Ghostborn, but we'll switch it up. Can't get the same answer. Who am I really, really liking here? I think that people pretty much know about Sylar. I'm going to go Sylar anyway. I mean, I think people know she's really good, but she's one of those champions that I didn't really respect how good she was until I actually built her out, even though I heard so many people being like, yeah, Sylar is amazing. So an AoE on the A1, an AoE on the A2 with decreased accuracy, obviously a spider monster, and then you add Leaden legs with a decreased speed and decreased turn meter by 40%. On a 4-turn cooldown. I mean, I think a lot of people who have her know how good she is, but I just got to give her a shout out because she is, even when I built her, I was like, wow, she's really, really good. Puts out a lot of damage with the 2 AoEs, and the Leaden legs is just such a great ability as well.
Yeah, I was singing her praises for a long time. When back in the early days, I was loving Sylar. She's a legacy champion that brought a really unique kit, like decreased accuracy. That manipulation's not very common in the game. And then the AoE A1 allows you to do stuff like stun set. So yeah, absolutely incredible. Then when they released Faction Crypts, they gave her one of the best Faction Crypts auras, which is 22% speed. So yeah, Sylar is a great pick.
Thank you. Let's move it along to Night Revenant.
Okay.
Interesting casting. Night Revenant, I don't know. To me, it's like it leaves you a little bit underwhelmed. I guess the epics are good, but the legendaries, I feel like maybe not. Who you got?
I would probably say Tomb Lord.
Okay.
People assume he's trash, but he's very, very important for finishing faction wars. Night Revenant is pretty much widely regarded as one of the 3 hardest factions to finish. And if you get Tomb Lord, he's a massive help in helping you finish faction wars. So I'd probably go him in terms of being underappreciated. Okay,
so you said that the widely considered to be top 3. I have my top 3. I thought it was Night Revenant, Dwarves, and Demon Spawn. Do you agree with Demon Spawn or no? I guess because I didn't have Duchess, you know? I guess it's all who you have, right?
Yeah. I think Night Rev, Dwarves, and then maybe like Skinwalkers. The top 5 are all pretty much. I think Night Rev and Dwarves are the 2 hardest, and then after that you got like a next tier of Ogryn, Skinwalkers, Undead, Orcs. So yeah, I think you can kind of go to that next tier after those top 2.
Okay, I agree with you on Tomb Lord though. I was surprised when I pulled. I was kind of disappointed, kind of like Cupidus. I was kind of disappointed when I pulled him, and then I built him, and I was like, oh yeah, damn man, he's pretty good. I'm gonna choose probably the most unpopular champion I could choose for this title. I feel like because he gets so much hate, but I actually think he's not that bad, and that is Werlim Frost King.
As soon as you said that, I knew you were going.
You knew, because people hate this dude because he was a void, right? Legendary, kind of diluting the pool of voids, and he was an accessible, a free-ish, not really, but battle pass that's never going to come again, legendary as well. So he was underwhelming, but I still think he's a good champion, and I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are. You mentioned Night Revenant faction crypt being very difficult. I mean, without this dude, I would not have been able to do it. You know, that's for sure. His damage is based on defense. His stats are okay, all of his base stats. He has a 3-turn decreased crit damage and increased crit damage. And then he has a 4-turn strengthen and increased defense. There's not that many strengthened champions in the game either. There's probably like, half a dozen of them. So I think he brings a decent amount to the table, Like, I don't think he's a trash champion, although it would have been nice for him not to be void.
Yeah.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. Yeah, I think you're right. He's definitely undersold because of the aura surrounding him with the battle pass and all the negativity and diluting the void pool. So he gets a bad rap because of the things around him and not necessarily him as a champion. But I totally agree. He's amazing for Night Rev progress in Faction Wars. And he's honestly like one of those cool champions to just have available for like some fun tag team arena strats when you're putting together that third best team that you have. He's a champion that can slot in there. And like you said, there's not very many champions that do the big version of strength and an increased defense. So he makes your team very sturdy. And yeah, I think he's a little bit undersold.
Good. I'm glad you agree, man. Yeah, I think there's a lot of obvious choices in the epic category as well that we won't go over all of them. But wrapping things up here, I guess we should mention Shadowkin as being the toughest faction crypt when it does get released.
Yeah.
Dwarves, man. Who you got on the dwarves?
Undersold for dwarves. Probably we got to give a shout out to Avir, a newer champion that I think is an amazing opportunity for people that don't have apothecary to go ahead and get some of that amazing support, and also placing poison for some of those early game clan boss teams. The AoE decrease attack, decrease speed, as long as there's poisons, and then the budget apothecary effect of the A3 and 102 base speed. I think he's up there in that like top 12 to top 15 rares in the game, somewhere in there.
Okay, interesting. I don't know. I was a fan of him when he was released, and like everything you said, it makes sense. So it's like I'm not like gonna fight you on this one, but I pulled him on my free to play, and then I was just like, well, I don't think I'm gonna build him. Like and like I should put my money where my mouth is when I was actually doing a guide on this dude. I'm sure you've had champions like that too. That you're like, you do a guide on them on your main account, and then you pull them on your free to play, and you're like, So
did you have apothecary on your free to play?
I have. I'm not sure who I got first, but I have apothecary. So it is a little bit like moot at that point, but still.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I probably would have just held out for apothecary. Like I feel like I'm opening like 300 mystery shards a day. I feel like eventually I'll get them, but I'm sure some people in the comments will be like, "Yeah, dude, I'm still waiting on apothecary after 2 years." Like, oops.
Oh yeah.
So okay, that's not a bad choice though. I'm gonna go with. There are a lot of decent rares, and I think that everybody knows that Grizzled Jarl is good at this point, so I won't choose him. This is not my choice, but I just want to ask you, have you ever played or seen anybody who's done a guide on Samar Gem Curse, the new legendary? He got awful reviews.
I wanted to, because he's one of those that you kind of have to test to see what's going, because there's just so much going on here. There's so much to read and so much interaction he's one that I wanted to test and play around with for a couple hours on somebody's account who has him. So I don't really have like a perfectly accurate opinion on him as of right now. Okay,
me neither. That's why I asked you. But like, I think he looks kind of cool. I was surprised that people seem to be kind of trashing on him a little bit. So I'm actually going to go with Runekeeper Daz Dirk. Really, really solid base stats. 1250 on the defense, 105 on the speed, 20k on the HP. His damage is based on defense, has a leech on the A1 at a 45% clip, which is really, really solid. On the A2, increase attack and fills turn meter by 25% on a 3-turn cooldown, kind of like a Seeker-esque ability, sans the extra turn. And then we have on the A3, on a 4-turn cooldown, removes all debuffs from all allies, heals all allies by 25% of this champion's max HP, places a continuous heal buff for 2 turns on allies who have debuff removed. Like, and then attack, the weirdest aura, attack in all battles. Okay, cool, man. Randomly attack in all battles as well. But I think that like really, really solid support champion in Runekeeper Dazdirk.
Yeah, and important for Faction Wars as well, because on stage 21, it's kind of a DPS race. So he brings the increased attack to help you hit a lot harder while also bringing the turn meter fill to help you get some turns cranking. And then with some heals based on his HP is going to help. That might make the difference on surviving that last attack when you're trying to 3-star. And then you get the leech so that your damage dealers can heal against the boss if they're cranking out damage and getting War Master procs and stuff. So yeah, I think he was an important addition to the game, especially for the Dwarf faction.
I agree, man. Boy, do I wish I had him when I did dwarves. But yeah, I mean, but you're right. The leech has the heals. He has the heal on the A3. He has continuous heal. He has the removal of debuffs. He has the increased attack, the turn meter, and the attack in all battles. He's bringing quite a bit with the 105 speed. You love to see it. Chosen, we have made it, dude. We've gone through every faction in the game. Such a pleasure having you on. We got to do this more often, man. This is great.
You bet, yeah, it's fun. It's gosh, has it been a year since we had done a collab?
Jeez, it doesn't feel like that. I think we've been on podcasts together or something. That's why I'm like, we talk. But yeah, man, let's do it. Let's make it not a year until the next time. Great time again to remind everybody to go check out Chosen's channel, subscribe, and check out his Twitter, social media information as well. Everything that you need to know about Chosen will be in the show notes below. Chosen, any final words or anything like that before we let you go?
No, cool concept for a video, and it was a lot of fun to kind of bounce the discussion back and forth with you. So thanks for having me.
Likewise, man, my pleasure. And that's going to do it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. And as always, take care, guys.